Okay, now we're gonna go into our natural inversion, also called a 180-degree haircut. And I'm gonna go about at the occipital, and sometimes it'll be a little higher than the occipital. And we're gonna block off this nape because this hair will not be cut. If I was to pull all this hair straight up at 180, you can always check it here. So if I pull this straight up here, I know my guide's gonna be longer than that. So that's gonna just fall out. So we're gonna try to get this hair out of our way to make the first time or two through this haircut a little easier. So I'm just gonna pin this and keep it out of my way. So I've done a center part in the back, but because my client wears her hair on the side, we're gonna take our guide at a diagonal, but it's gonna go back to this center pivot and then come down through the center of the head. So our first guide, we're gonna take a 1 inch. Normally we'd call it profile. You'd go right down the center of the head, but we're gonna take it at a diagonal. And you can see how this looks here, but I'm still stopping right at the apex, at the crown here, and then I'm going to go down the center. So I kind of do a little turn on my profile. Get this hair all the way, and then you can see it better. So if you lean forward a little bit, so you see how this is at a diagonal, but it comes straight back to the pivot area at the crown, and then this is gonna go straight vertical through the back. So I'll kind of cut the guide in a couple different pieces, and you'll see how that works. So we're gonna pull this hair straight up at 180 from the head, and you see here's my guide from my face frame. So I can take all of this and look. And if I did it through the center, you'd be doing this a little more, but I can see where, here's my first guide. Well, where's the guide in the back? So here's the guide here. So if I could just pull these two pieces up, this is my angle that I'm gonna be cutting the hair. So don't start flat, but if you pull the piece from the back here that's gonna be taken straight up at 180, and this front piece, and just put your comb here, then you can take a mental picture of what that angle looks like. Because sometimes it's hard to hold all this hair in your hand. I try to hold it just so I can see where I'm going. But then what I'll do is I'll bunch this up at the back and then lock this down at the front. And then I'm gonna start cutting just a little bit at a time. And I'm walking this back. Do you see how this piece is going forward just so I can hold it? But I walk it back and I cut it where it's straight directly out from the head. So I already had to take that mental picture of what that angle looked like, or I'm not gonna make it. So now let's look at the guide. So when I look through here now, can you see how that increases in length toward the back? So there's my guide. So now what we want to do with this guide is we want to part it down the middle of that guide, so we have a little piece of guide on each side of the head. So I basically reestablished the angle of her part, and then back to the crown, and then through the back of the head. This is gonna go straight up and down vertically. Don't do this off center. This has to be in the center, in the back. Okay, so on this side, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna work on each side at a time. We're gonna come up here above the crown, and we're gonna take a diagonal back section. So through this whole haircut, we're gonna have parallel diagonal backs. There's nothing pivoting anything like our previous haircuts, but we're gonna go through and do parallel diagonal backs. So the first one, when you come up above that crown, when you take that first diagonal back, this section will look like a triangle, but you need to focus on this line because this is the diagonal back line. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that first section and we're gonna comb this straight to this center part. So we're over directing everything to this part. So as I come this way, and you can see when I'm holding it, I'm combing everything out, comb clean from the scalp, up at the 180, and all this hair is combed directly to that part. So when you look at this, you can see your guide. Let me take just a little more guide so you can see it. If you ever can't see it, you can take it a little more from that side. But what's gonna happen is you're gonna see a minimal line that you need to cut here. Okay. Let me take a little less guide here. So now you can see it. So it was a little too thick, so I couldn't see the previously cut hair. So you see that I'm taking this straight to the part. So if you look real closely, you can see the guide right there. So all I'm gonna see is just a little piece that needs to be cut. So I'm gonna hold my fingers parallel to that cut and go through and cut. Now, I wanna come back and take, and a lot of times I don't drop this, I hold it in my hand because it's hard to manage this hair. This haircut is about 90% cutting, combing and 10% cutting. So now I got my next diagonal back. It's parallel, comb it really smooth from the scalp. So I have to kind of comb it out and then bring it up. So it's kind of cut on a bias too. So you can see the guide in there, and I just cut everything with that guide. Hold this like a pony. I come in here, see how I'm bringing my hand over, taking another inch, diagonal back, comb this through smooth from the scalp out. You can see my guide. You see how I have this comb straight to the part, and then I cut with that guide. Come down, and when you get to about an inch from the hairline, you will probably start running out of hair to cut. There won't be much because we've already cut a lot of hair in our face frame, but it gets hard to manage all this hair. So you've got to comb it like you're combing up a ponytail, and then you can come over here and set the haircut. Cut at that angle. So I'm just double checking that that's lining up. Okay, so the last piece, I will pull this back, but we'll see how much there may be a little bit to cut up at the front. But you see how this hair is coming back a little? It's not going straight up, so it's kind of cut on a bias also. So I'll come in here, and I'll kind of hold all this, and I'm still kind of cramming the back into my hand just so I can maintain it. And then I'm focusing on the front, cutting that angle. So if I could hold all this hair, or it could stay standing up, then you would see this continual increase in length angle coming up. See how it increases there? And if I walk it back, you pull it all the way to the middle. If you don't pull all the way to the middle, it'll look like you need to cut something else. Just a little tag right there. So now, if you look at this side, you're gonna have a minimal layer. Your face frame won't be as chunky as it was before. And you see you have a few little layers going through here. So it makes a real subtle, long layer. So now I have to do this side. So notice when I was doing her right, I stood on the right. Well, when I do her left, I'm still gonna stand on the right because I have to cut from short to long. So if I come over here and try to cut, I'm gonna have my hand up trying to cut down, which is very difficult. So I'm gonna stand on the same side, but I have to come around here and part it, then pull my hair back this way. So I want to be sure I have enough guide in there. So I'll come to this side, diagonal back, and I have to look over here to ensure I'm combing it correctly. And then what's going to happen, I'm going to pull this up this way, and you can see the guide here, and then I'm going to begin cutting here. So I need to hold this so I don't lose it, then come in here and take another inch. Comb this. So I can see the guide here on this side, so that's what I'm looking at. I'm still combing this straight to the part, and then I cut to increase in length. Come back around here, comb another inch, diagonal back, comb it from the scalp out. So I'm kind of combing it backwards and then bringing it around and up. I can see the guide on this side. So I'm walking it back. Cutting that. So now I have my last section. I'm gonna take all this hair, comb it back. So this becomes a lot of hair to hold. So you just have to kind of work to manage it. So when I get to this point, I'm gonna close everything in here and focus on that front piece. And continue cutting. So you'll have a little bit along the way that you're cleaning up, just from the way you hold it. So I'm gonna double check this front piece. A lot of times this front, because you're holding so much hair, it's hard to clean that up really good. Okay, so now I have my layers on this side. So if you notice, if I pull this up here to cut, if I took this piece right in the back, so this isn't the last part of my cut. Does this reach? So when this doesn't reach, you know you block this off at the right. So always check that when you're done. If you ended up cutting the layers way short and you pull this up and it's longer, then you should have had more hair brought up. So always check that at the end. So when we comb this hair back, you'll notice her layers are very subtle. There's just a few little layers toward the bottom. And the steeper the angle and the shorter the face frame, will pull more layers to the back. If her face frame was left longer, then her layers may have started here down. So your client might say, I want 3 layers or 2 layers. So that's kind of the way they understand it, but this would be something, oh, I got 1, 2, 3 layers right here at the bottom. So where I started, that angle, this length through here is a little shorter, a shorter kind of 180 because we have a lot shorter face frame, but it's soft, subtle layers. You don't see chunks, chops in their hair, and it will style real nicely when you curl it. Okay, was that confusing? Or makes sense?